All right, good day, everybody. Steve Prziborowski here. Welcome to episode 59 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge. We're going to continue discussing the most important part of the hiring process, fire department oral interviews, because that's usually 100% of your score. This oral interview episode is going to discuss what is the oral board looking for in candidates, or more importantly, what are they looking for? And I always love it when I get that question. Hey, Chief, what are they looking for? First of all, who the heck is they? Well, we'll talk about that. So as we get going, as a reminder, my two websites have a lot of great free information on there. Please feel free to check them out and take the time to see some of the valuable information I put on there to help you be the best you can be. Also on the website, 2 of the 3 books I've had published. Again, great resources to help you be the best firefighter candidate and firefighter you can be. So I touched on that. A question I hear regularly when candidates are preparing for oral interview is, Steve, hey Chief, what do they want to hear? Or what are they looking for? I always love the they. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that. First, who are they? Well, the first group of they, sorry, I'm a college graduate. I should have a better grasp of the English language here, but they are the oral board. The oral board that usually may be as few as 2 members, maybe 3 members, 4 members, 5 members, maybe up to 7 members. And then after that, the they is usually the fire chief and his or her command staff. That's who they are. Second question, what are they looking for? Well, heck, this isn't rocket science. We don't hire or promote resumes. We hire and promote people, and we'll talk about that. So we're looking for good, solid people. So things they're looking for confidence, not cockiness. We all know those individuals that they border more toward cockiness than confidence. Try to walk that line of not being cocky, not being arrogant, but also having confidence, because a lot of people come to that oral interview without a lot of self-confidence. And you can determine the self-confidence because of how they answer questions. Very, I don't know, very just not confident. Yeah, that's pretty amazing, Steve. Yeah, they're not too confident in their answers. And here's an example. Well, Steve, what would you do in this situation? And well, I think I would probably, maybe, I might do that. Okay, first of all, that's not decisive. It's also not too confident. So again, you want to be confident. That's what we're looking for, because again, we're only going to hire a few, and you're representing the department 24/7 on and off duty. We want someone that's going to wear this badge, wear this patch, wear this uniform proudly. We need a sense of humor, not over sense of humor. Now, don't come into your oral board cracking jokes, because odds are you're going to offend somebody with any joke. Yeah, knock, knock, who's, don't even go there. I mean, I know there's clean jokes out there, but you just never know the level of sensitivity that somebody else has. So it's best not to tell jokes, but on the opposite end, you got to have a good sense of humor. I mean, you got to smile, you got to have enthusiasm, you got to have a good sense of humor, because you know what? We need it. So, got to have a positive outlook. Again, glass is half full, not half empty. You got to be that one with a positive outlook, not naive that you're totally clueless to what's going on, but also not the sky is falling either. It's a balance, but also positivity. You also got to have positive character traits, because that's what we're looking for. If you positive character traits, honesty, integrity, ethics, leadership ability, positive character traits versus slacker, lazy. Eye contact with each member. You've got to be able to look in the eye of each person, not just the person that asked you the question. I see this a lot as I've been on both sides of the oral interview table. As a rater, it's interesting how some candidates are good about eye contact, meaning they'll make eye contact with each rater, and some just look at the person that asked them the question. Well, on an oral board, no matter how many people are on the other end grading you, you never want to alienate anybody. Don't alienate anybody, period. You want all of them going to bat for you. So you always want to have eye contact, smile, personality, treat them all equally, fairly, respectfully. Eye contact is critical. You also got to find some connection with each of them in some way. And here's the thing, you'll never know what connects with them. That's why it's good to know yourself inside and out, know your background, your experience, your education, your life. I mean, don't give us a 50-minute dissertation on your life story. Yeah, back in 1963, I was born. oh my gosh, don't be that person. But you've got to at least, you got to be aware of things, and you got to be able to connect, because if the oral board can connect with you, each of them, because each of them are uniquely different, obviously, because they're human beings, that's what's going to go in your favor. Otherwise, you're just one of the other hundreds of people that are applying that all pretty much look, sound, act the same way. Hi, I'm Steve. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I want to be a firefighter. This would be a dream come true for me. Yeah, oh my gosh. That's sadly many candidates. So be that one with personality that connects in some form or fashion. And really be the one that they say, I want them to join our family, because we are a family. I mean, whether or not you have a big family at home doesn't matter. This is your second family. You're not just joining the fire department, you're joining their family. And why? Because you're working 24 hours a day, if not 48, if not 72, if not 2 or 3 weeks. So we want someone to join our family, be a good fit for our culture. And you could line up 5 fire departments all next to each other, which, imagine 5 city fire departments all next to each other. And they all may be slightly different based on their culture. And you may see a certain person that seems to be a type there. Some departments are, they're a little, they got their, tighty whities in a, they got their underwear tied up in a, because they're so uptight, versus another fire department next door, maybe just casual, very loosey-goosey, very just laid back. I mean, that's not right or wrong. They still get the job done, but each department may have a different reputation. So you may think you want to work for one agency, whereas you may be a better fit for another agency, but they'll determine that. They'll make that choice during the interview. Also, they're looking for low maintenance. Nobody likes high maintenance anything, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a house, whether it's a person. Low maintenance is good, because especially on your oral board, you're going to have probably a future supervisor of yours, because most oral boards will have captain or chiefs on there, so they're looking, it's like, oh my God, they're going to be a pain in the butt to work with. They're going to be asking me every single question. They're going to be sitting there asking me what to do, how to do it, blah, blah. I mean, questions are good. Don't get me wrong. Please ask questions, especially when you don't know. But as some things I previously shared in a few episodes about surviving probation, if your captain has to ask you to take out the trash, to clean the rig, to check the rig out, that's high maintenance. So be low maintenance. Also, great personality. You can never go wrong with a great personality, because think about it. That oral board on the other side of the table, not just can they join our family, but it's like, can I work with him or her for 24 hours or 48 hours? Because they're spending a third of their life with you. And we all have those friends or family members, because of their personality or lack thereof, it's painful for them to be around us, because maybe they talk too much, or they don't talk at all. Or when you try to talk to them, I mean, they got nothing to say, or they're focusing on their phone, or you got to connect. This is a social job, and that's how, we get the job done through teamwork. Also, you got to be someone that doesn't think that work is a 4-letter dirty word. Be able to roll up your sleeves and get dirty. Again, a lot of people don't know what they're getting into, and it's like, this is not a white collar job. It's a blue collar job that uses a lot of hand tools, power tools. We work with our hands. Yeah, we use our brain, we use our heart, but we also work with our hands. So you got to get dirty. They want someone they can get along with. I've touched on that. They want someone who'll bring something unique or special to their team. We're all unique in some way. Be able to bring that out during an interview, because if not, you're just like everybody else. I got my EMT, I got my firefighter academy, I got some college. Okay, what sets you apart from everybody else? Well, my blue eyes, no. Find something in a positive way that you can connect with the panel for. Some basic tips. And I've shared some of these things. I know some of it may be repetitive, but they're repetitive for a reason. There are no trick questions. I don't know of any fire department that is there just to trick you. Haha, gotcha. We failed everybody that started the process. Seriously, if we're interviewing, say, 200 candidates for like 5 jobs, and we fail the majority of the candidates, that is not going to go over well. Because after the interview process, usually the oral board members go in to brief the fire chief, or maybe brief the command staff, or brief the human resources department. Hey, guess what? We just spent the last 2 weeks interviewing people, and we just failed everybody. So we got no one to hire for the academy in a few months. And you got your fire chief going, huh? So we just wasted how much money? Thousands of dollars to pay you all overtime to be away from your firehouses just to do this, to fail everybody? Yeah, all the candidates are just pieces of crap. You mean you couldn't find 5 candidates out of 200 people? Nope, they're all pieces of crap. Okay. It doesn't happen like that. Again, we all know there's going to be people that will fail an oral interview, people that will do extremely well in an oral interview, and then most people that are just, do okay, meaning they'll pass, but nothing special. But they're not there to trick you. So if you find, if you find a question to be tricky or whatever else, that's because you didn't prepare for it. That's why I say there are no trick questions, just questions that you failed to prepare for. Because if you truly prepared for the position, as well as the process, you have an idea of what they're going to ask you. So think about it this way. Don't take it personal, but you're not going to connect with every oral board. Get over it. Move on. I mean, we all hear those stories of people, and I've had those too when I was interviewing to be a firefighter. Sometimes I'd come out the top 5 candidates out of a couple hundred or a couple thousand people, and there's other times 125, huh? I mean, it happens. You don't always connect. And think about it. It's sort of like the old football saying, on any given Sunday. Yeah, you got a 50-50 chance of winning or losing. Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. And I think that's the challenge. Your key, though, is to not worry about it. Be yourself every time, whether you're in Fresno's interview today or Seattle's tomorrow or Denver the next day. Just be yourself. Obviously, you better say why you want to work for Seattle or Denver or Fresno, because that should be a little bit different. But your answers should pretty much be the same, short of why you want to work there and what have you done to prepare for that department. But you're not going to connect with every oral board. Get over it. Don't try to dissect it of, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I pissed them off. I don't, you know what? You'll never know, because they'll never tell you why. So you know what? Just move on. You can't win everything. I remember the first time I had a chance to speak in front of a huge audience, couple hundred people at a major conference. And I remember reading my reviews afterward. I mean, there was most of the reviews were all good, solid reviews, and some really great reviews, mostly all good, solid. And then there was a couple reviews that were like, Steve sucked. I don't appreciate what he was saying. I didn't get his message. He's washed up. And I remember focusing not on the positive, but focusing on those few negative ones. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't connect with these people. And I took it personal until a wise friend of mine, Dr. Rich Gasaway, who's been teaching, I don't know, probably almost 100,000 people around the country in his career and lifetime on situational awareness related items. He is the man in that stuff. Dr. Rich Gasaway, he's the guru. And I remember him sitting me down saying, so Steve, you're all bent out of shape because you got a few negative evaluations. It's like, yeah. He goes, think about it, Steve. First of all, you're fortunate to get in front of anybody that wants to listen to you. He goes, think about it. The overwhelming majority of people gave you great evaluations. Yeah, you had a few that were terrible, but out of a couple hundred people, what's that math percentage? Okay, yeah, 5 people didn't like you. That's going to happen anytime you're in front of a group of others. He goes, it happens to me all the time. He goes, if you were in front of, say, 10,000 people, you'd still probably get potentially not 5, but maybe 20 people that didn't like you. But you know what? He goes, don't discount them. Take a look at the evaluations. Maybe there's some good feedback you can learn from. But don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive, and just realize not everyone's going to connect with you. And I'm glad I got that advice, because it really, at first, I was taking it personally. It's like, no, dude, get over yourself. You're not going to connect with everybody. Nobody's perfect. It's like, you know what? Good point, buddy. Thank you. Let's see. Go back slide here. Here's another thing. You want to try and connect with each and every oral board member to ensure a consensus on your score. When I say consensus, every oral board does it different. Some oral boards, let's say there's 3 oral board raters. In some departments, it's pretty much Steve, the candidate, walks out of the room. They have 10 or 15 minutes till the next candidate comes in for their interview. And during that time frame in between candidates, it's there for each rater to come up with a score. Maybe it's a score of anywhere from 0 to 100, with 70 being passing. Maybe it's some other form like an A, B, C, D, E, or excuse me, A, B, C, D, F with C passing. And some oral boards, there is no communication between the members, meaning if there's 3 of us that are rating you, we each come up with their final score of, okay, I think you're an 88, next person does theirs, but we don't talk to each other. We give them to the proctor and then we never discuss it. There's other departments though that You still grade individually though, and then after you've graded individually without sharing feedback, then the proctor will be there. Okay, time for, you guys all done scoring? Okay, Steve, how did you score Ralph? 88. Lisa, how did you score Ralph? 100. Oh, okay, Joe, how did you score Ralph? 68. We got a 68 and a 100 and a 88. That's like a, what, 32-point difference. Now, in some oral boards, they won't even let the board go to the next candidate until you can come up within 10 points or 10 consensus points. Reason being is that, why did one rater think the candidate was 100? Why did the other one think it was a 68? Because obviously one person saw some awesome stuff, another person saw some crap. So that method is actually good for the candidate because it gives the oral board a chance to come to a consensus. The person in the middle just stays the same, but that person that got 100 is going to try to convince that low one to raise their score. The one that got a low score because they didn't connect or like that person or whatever is going to try to convince the high scores to lower down because, again, they can't go to the next one until they get within 100. So sometimes, or excuse me, 10. So sometimes what happens is like, okay, we got a score of 100, got a score of 88. That's 12 points apart. And then we got a score of 68. So odds are that 68 needs to raise up. And the 68 person may go, you know what, dude, that person is not a 90 or an 80. I'll go up to maybe 79 at the most. But they're not 100. They're not 90s. Hell, they're not even 80s. And maybe that person that's 100 is like, okay, maybe I was too nice, too generous. I'll lower my score maybe down to like 80, but nothing lower. And then the 88 will maybe go, well, I can't go lower than say 82. And then maybe they're, hey, you're still within 10 points. So it's not to get the exact same. It's not to be biased or discriminatory, but it's just to make sure that, because what happens, sometimes that 68, the person that failed that candidate didn't hear a lot of things. But then the two other people scored that person high. So that's sometimes a good case because then it allows the other two to say, no, no, you're saying you didn't hear the person say that? No, I heard him say that. And the other, yeah, I heard him say that. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to raise my score. So it's a good check and balance system. But the point is that you want each board member going to bat for you. So you want to have enough connection because if it does affect your score, you want them all going to bat for you because then it's going to help you out versus all of them thinking that you're POC, piece of crap. It doesn't help your score. All right, some other tips. Be memorable, hopefully in a positive and unique way. Sadly, most are not. And I've shared this before that whether we're interviewing 10, 100, 1,000, a million, regardless, there's always, take 0 to 100%, regardless of how many we're interviewing. For 100% of the candidates, usually about 80% of the candidates are all just fine. They come in there, they get a basic minimum passing score, but there's usually nothing memorable. Usually there's 5 or 10% at the very bottom that fail that are very memorable because of what they say or don't say to make them fail. And then usually the 5%, 10% at the top are memorable because of their powerful answers, their uniqueness, their personality, or some connection that the board goes, you know what? Boom, high 90s. So be memorable. So, I mean, it may be a personality, maybe a positive attitude, but you got to have some substance behind you too. That's how you stand out. Also, your passion, enthusiasm, and love of that fire department better be obvious throughout the interview. And when I say that, this is what I mean. It's not uncommon to hear from a lot of oral board raters that the candidate never mentioned the name of their department. So if you're testing for the Oakland Fire Department, you better be mentioning the Oakland Fire Department's name throughout your interview. Not every 5 words, Oakland, 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 Oakland. Okay, we get it. But you also better mention Oakland a couple times, and especially at the very end of, hey, thank you very much for the opportunity, the closing statement. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Hopefully I've demonstrated over the last 20, 25 minutes how much becoming an Oakland firefighter would be a dream come true for me. I've been preparing to be an Oakland firefighter for the last 5 years. I've been doing everything I could that I think would benefit the city of Oakland. I love the city, blah, blah, blah. You got to ooze passion and enthusiasm for that agency and those folks because, again, they love their department more than likely, especially if they're wanting to be on the oral board to pick the right people. Because usually the people that are on the oral board, they want to do it for a reason because they get to pick the future, their future replacements, their future officers, maybe their future bosses. So have that passion and love of the department, but most people don't. Also, don't forget the key things they are usually grading you on. So one of the things candidates tend to forget is, what are they grading me on? Well, each of the raters will have a score sheet in front of them. Like I said, it may be A, B, C, D, F. It may be 100 to 90. It could be 90 to 80, 80 to 70, 60 and below. But Typically, the big picture items they're grading you on, they're grading you on your maturity. How professional are you? How mature are you? And it has nothing to do with age. They're grading you on your oral communication skills. So if you're saying a lot of ums, ahs, okay, you know, those are not good oral communication skills. Or if you're just, hi, my name is Steve. I am a robot. I want to be a firefighter. It would be awesome. You know what? Those are not great oral communication skills. So as I mentioned before in previous episodes, watch newscasters on the major news channels, whether it's the daytime, morning, evening news. Usually most newscasters have pretty darn good communication skills. Not just understanding, watching their body language, but how they emphasize key points, or how they're changing their pitch, their tone, making sure they have eye contact, just making sure they can connect, because that's what you're trying to do, is connect. So oral communication skills are critical. Excuse me. Interpersonal communication skills. Interpersonal communication skills is body language. Understanding body language of others. How you demonstrate your body language. All those things are critical. There's classes at colleges, you can take classes, you can read books, but do something to have good, rock solid oral communication skills and interpersonal communication skills. Also, they're evaluating your problem solving ability. Do you immediately just jump for a conclusion without evaluating the facts, without taking the time to look at alternatives, without weighing the pros and the cons, or do you just immediately go, whoop, we're gonna do that? There's a decision-making process that you need to be aware of, and that's why another sometimes dimension, and dimensions again are behaviors or things they're evaluating you on. How well do you make decisions? Good decisions, not so good decisions. So don't just jump to a decision or solve a problem. Sometimes with problem solving, the question needs to be asked, what problem are we trying to solve? Because a lot of times when I ask that question of others, I know you've done a lot of great work, and I'm not going to discount that. You're really passionate about this, but what problem are we trying to solve? And a lot of times the answer is, well, I don't know, Chief, I just think it's a cool bitchin' thing to do. Okay, I do too, but what problem are we trying to solve? I mean, is it a money problem? Is it an image problem or perception problem, public relations problem? Is it a training problem? Is it a response time problem? I don't know. You've got to know that if you want to convince me otherwise. Also, you're getting greater in your listening ability. Now, I'll be honest, some oral boards ask you easy questions and some ask you long, hard to follow, hard to remember questions that are like 3, 4, 5 sentences. It's like a paragraph. I mean, it's one thing to be asked the question, so Steve, please tell us your greatest strength and also tell us your greatest weakness along with what you're doing with weakness. That's pretty easy to remember. But there are some oral boards that, okay, Steve, this is a 25-part question, first part, and they don't take a breath in between, and you're trying to remember all this stuff. That's tough. Some departments will have the questions in front of you in a binder so you can follow along, at least in case you lose track. But when in doubt, ask the oral board. Don't ask the oral board, though, what something means. Now, if they say a word or a term, and you're like, I don't understand what the term biddly bop means. Well, an oral board typically is not going to be able to give you the definition of biddly bop or whatever the word is. They're going to, all they can usually say is, I can't give you the answer to that. Well, I can repeat the question, but they can't answer, say, a word in the question. Well, do you mean on the fire ground? Do you mean at the firehouse? Do you mean? Here's the question again. So it's okay to ask them to repeat the question, but if you're having to ask them to repeat the question every other question, what do you think that shows about your listening ability? Not a lot. So try to be able to process things. And one way to do this, a good test that I was taught years ago, is have someone do a mock oral board with you. Have somebody else fire off questions at you and then ask them, make sure I stay on track. And you know what? Be able to self-police yourself, meaning I'm one that sometimes rambles on during oral interviews. Shocker if you've watched a number of these videos. I go down a lot of rabbit holes, squirrel. But I'm one sometimes that I'll hear the question and I'll start answering the question. And even sometimes myself, I'll get so wrapped up that I find myself, I forgot what the freaking question was. Shit. And I'll sometimes, okay, I need to take a time out here. I obviously got off track. Can you please repeat the question? And of course, the oral boards, they're not going to say, no, we're on to the next one. Of course, they're going to say, because we're usually kinder, gentler oral boards, sure, Steve, we'll repeat the question for you. And then usually it's like, okay, boom, that's what I was talking about, or that's where the path I was going. But Try to keep that to a minimum. Time management. You may or may not know how much time you have in the room and how many questions they may ask you. So your key is try not to be speaking more than a couple minutes on any question you're answering. So if you're taking more than 4 minutes to answer any question, you're talking too much. I previously discussed in one of the episodes about the opening statement. The opening statement is that's the question, tell us about yourself or how you prepared. That's the one you're going to talk the most on. That'll be maybe 3 minutes max, no more than 4 minutes. But if you're doing any more than 3 minutes, you better be engaging and exciting to pay attention to. You better be a darn good storyteller, sadly, most are not. Every other question is 1 to 2 minutes. We don't ask yes, no questions. So if you're one of those short answer people that always, well, my greatest strength is I'm dependable. Okay. Dependable, okay, that's maybe a 70% barely passing answer. You want to maybe get into a little more depth and detail, please. Give us an example, tell us why it's important, maybe package it up a little better. But again, time yourself. You may not have a watch, you may not have a clock in the room, but again, time yourself in advance by preparing your oral board answers and seeing how long it's taking you to answer questions. And of course, know yourself well enough where sometimes you can stop a question if you think you're yakking too much, or don't hesitate to ask the oral board. I don't see a clock in the room, my apologies. I just want to make sure, am I still on track? Or can I get a time check, please? What do they do? Say no. Yeah, manage the time because they will cut you off at the end of the time there. Also, another question is judgment. So do you possess common sense? Do you use good judgment, sort of like decision making? So let's take it back to decision making 1 second. Decision making, you got to be decisive. If they ask you a question, well, Steve, you pull up in your engine to the scene of a structure fire. You got fire coming out of a window that appears to be a bedroom. Which way are you going to take the hose line in? And don't, well, whatever way my captain tells me to. Okay, that's partially true, but again, that's something you should be able to know on your own. Don't get me wrong, your captain will give you direction, but you should understand the whys behind where a hose line goes in. Well, you don't want to be the one that also says, not just, I'm going to do whatever my boss tells me. That's, no. I want to hear your thought process because you're getting graded on your thought process, your justification. But a lot of candidates, well, I think I might take the hose line in the front door, but then maybe I could take it in the back door, but maybe I could take it through the, and it's almost like, okay, you just gave me 5 possibilities. It's like you're shotgunning out all these answers. And then usually what the oral board says, okay, you said you might take it in the front door, you might take it in the back door, you might take it in the garage door, you might take it through the window, oh, you might take it through the kitchen window, you might take it through the bedroom window. Which is it? Pick one. There probably is no one right way to do it, but more importantly, you're decisive. I would take it in this way and for this reason. Be decisive, back it up, justify it. As a rater, I may not agree with it, but you know what? At least you're confident about your actions. So remember, ultimately the oral board is there looking for individuals who they feel will be a great fit to their team. And their team may be slightly different from the next door department team. And even just those 3 members, meaning you could have 3 different oral board members tomorrow in a different oral board, same fire department, who could grade you with a higher score or lower score just because they're humans, different personalities. Yeah, it's the same questions they ask you, same answers, but a lot of it comes down to sometimes fit. You know, those they'd like to work with and potentially work for, because you could be their future boss at some point, because it could be people in the oral board that don't want to promote any higher, and maybe you're one of those individuals like myself that wanted to promote. Well, don't tell me they're not sizing you up for number one, a coworker, but a potential boss. And if you come across as an asshole that's going to drive you and everybody crazy, that probably don't want to work with you. They also looking for someone that's going to represent the fire department well, not to mention the community, you know, and I mentioned earlier, those who are low maintenance. So lastly, a lot of your oral board score may come down to your likability factor, not to mention how sincere you are about serving and working for that fire department, that community, those oral board raters. And I emphasize with uppercase, not to shout at you, but to emphasize, you got to show your love and passion for that fire department, that community, and those oral board raters. Don't kiss their ass, don't suck up to them, but don't be standoffish either. Don't come across as an arrogant, you know, individual. Like we all know, we all can name those people in our departments. I mean, thank God they're few, but Don't be those folks. Be the ones that we're proud to be having alongside of us. Because again, we don't hire resumes, we hire people, and people that we want to work with that are trainable, low maintenance, have great character traits, that are not going to get in trouble, that are going to do the right thing, and they're going to represent the department to the best of their ability. So as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Until we see each other again in the next episode, stay safe, be well, and continue preparing yourself to be the best you can be for the career of your dreams. All right, have a great day, everybody.